items?
I do not.
Okay. All right, now we'll move to the public hearing items. First one is PCN 15064. Consideration and possible action on a major deviation. Ian Critterton is presenting.
Thank you, Commissioners. Ian Crittenden, Senior Planner. I'm just going to pull up. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. Yeah. Well, put the wrong piece up here, but the site plan does have the streets called out on it. So this is a major deviation request to reduce the FAR or floor area ratio. Just to reiterate, floor area ratio is the ratio of number of square feet inside of a building compared to the square footage of the lot. This lot specifically is 37,026 square feet. In order to hit the 50% or 0.5 FAR, they need to construct 18,513 square feet. The building that they're proposing, it'd be one floor. Well, that's the total number of square footage regardless of the number of floors, but their proposal is to build a 10,520 square foot building which is that is less than, obviously, that 50% square footage. It's actually a 0.28. In their analysis or their proposal, they also included the square footage of the cell phone tower site, which you can see in the bottom left of the image. This is, just to kind of give you your bearings, the El Rancho's over here on the right, and Greenbrae is on the top or the north. And so it sits right on that corner, and there's the parking lot to the south of them. And then there's just an entrance into that parking lot off of Greenbrae to the west. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you the kind of the boundaries of that, to the west. So with the construction of that cell phone tower on that site, it changes circulation. They do need to provide parking for a grocery use, and so they took that site into consideration. Basically, everything within the wall of that site into their calculation for their FAR, which is a reasonable approach for them to take. With that, it brings them up to 0.32. That 1,500 square feet for the cell phone tower site is specifically within that wall, but we know that wall isn't the edge of the kind of the influence that cell phone tower site has. I made a couple of drawings kind of to show a little more realistically kind of the impact that site has, and we know that it's going to kind of carry out that much area. The square I drew on there is roughly 3,500 square feet, which is a little more realistically the impact that cell phone tower site has on that corner, because we know nothing's going between it and the property line to the south and the west, and some room around it for any sort of maneuvering. That addition would bring them up to a 0.38 FAR. And even I ran one more kind of scenario. Realistically, from that point north, that whole area kind of becomes a little bit undevelopable. Not undevelopable, but hard for them to place a building in there and still have circulation. Mm-hmm. And so if we were to kind of cull that whole part out, that brings their FAR to 0.51, which brings them into the acceptable range. And these aren't anything other than trying to kind of understand what the impact of that cell phone tower site has on the property, and while the request is to reduce the FAR because they can really only count their structures on the property, to kind of help you understand the total impact of that, the cell phone tower site on trying to reach the FAR. So this request for a major deviation from the FAR requirements isn't going to affect any of the other regulations or standards that come from the MUD, from the mixed use district standards. That includes facade, pedestrian connectivity. There's a host of them that come from that. This is just this one piece of the FAR. We've talked and we've gone through, and they've given us, this is obviously a preliminary site plan. This isn't etched in stone. Your approval of the FAR deviation wouldn't lock them into this necessarily, and it doesn't have to be the final form. They still do have to go through the administrative review process and get us to all get on the same page as far as the landscaping and all the other pieces that come from the mixed use district standards. After analysis and review of this project, staff is in support of it and thinks that we can make the findings needed to. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to send them my way.
Questions for Ian?
I just a general question. When we approved this about a year ago, were these total plans known or just the cell phone tower?
As far as I'm aware, and obviously I wasn't here at that time, that was just specifically the cell phone tower site. This is in fact, I'm not sure how that affects, or I'm not sure if the same owner at the same was it the same owner that owns it now, or if that owner is the developer of the project. Does that make sense? This Asian market that wants to go there is actually located in the shopping center to the south of them already, and they're just trying to get an area where they can build a bigger space for themselves.
Ian, I do have a question on this. So floor area ratio right now, we're quite a ways away, and you're saying this, and we're making an assumption right now of the cell phone tower, and it is the fence inside, essentially the fence inside. And even with that, we're still quite a ways away.
Yeah.
And so then we're assuming, okay, so let's assume another 8,500 square feet to the, we'll grab some more square feet in some other parking lot. And so now we're within the 0.51. Just my concerns, the 0.5 is there for a reason, and we're quite a ways away from that. I mean, we're roughly 8,000 square feet away. Then you subtract the cell phone tower out, or the 1,500 square feet, and we're still quite a ways away. And then we're going to, okay, because of the circulation, because the lot's set up, we're going to add another some thousand to get it to where it's working. My concerns are mainly the cell phone tower was addressed in 2014 and added. And just like Commissioner Camerata said, that possibly there was knowledge that maybe other buildings were going to be put on this property and on this parcel. And it seems like we're stretching a little bit to even get remarkably close to what we're at with this deviation. Is that, I don't know if there's a question in there, but you see the concerns of how we're so far off, and now we're stretching something to try to get it to fit. Trying to put a
Understood. And my drawings, for lack of a better word, exhibits are just kind of try to understand really the impact that site has. I 100% understand your concerns that look, that's part of your site. You got to work around it. And in fact, if we just go back to just the plain site, so if all we looked at, or if all the commission took into consideration was the existing building and the existing site for the cell phone tower. Now, like you said, the cell phone tower site is hard to construe as a structure because the structure is just the pole, but everything within that fence is essentially site that we know is undevelopable as anything else. So counting as its structure, in my mind, is a fairly reasonable approach. So if we just say the 10,000 plus square feet for the main building, and then that 1,500 square feet. That gets them to the .32 that was on the application, and it's 36% reduction from the .5. And I agree that is a hefty reduction, but is within the margin that we built into the major deviation. The .5 FAR in the MED is part of that effort to increase the density and development in that, the TOD corridor that was established. And I know that there's been cases, we talked about them recently, about cases that we've had to make some other kind of hoops we've had to figure out in order to make things fit within the district and make that FAR work. This is a different approach to that, a little more straightforward about what's being asked. But yeah, I very much understand your concerns about trying to make it fit, and it is falling short of the required.
I'm just, Ian, just kind of the other side of the coin, taking that lot as it currently stands with the inability to make use of the space that's taken up by the cell tower, if we required something close to the 50% FAR or 0.5 FAR that is on the books, I'm not sure that you would then run into the problem of not having enough of the required parking spaces. If you somehow or another force them to go to something approximating the 0.5 FAR. I think, just looking at it, I haven't done any analysis, but it could go up. Additional stories, yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's one way to do it.
But as you mentioned, the same parking issue would be there. I mean, every square foot you add of space adds more parking requirement. They do have a large parking lot to the south of them that there's
reciprocal.
Reciprocal parking across there. So
yeah. So I mean I understand Commissioner Fuen's concerns, but if something's going to go on that lot, I don't see how it could be very much larger than that and still meet any kind of parking requirements.
I have a question. Remember walking this when we looked at the cell tower. There were apartments, to the north, I believe?
yes, across the street.
Have we heard from any of the neighbors?
I didn't receive any phone calls on this.
Well, do we have any more questions for Ian? Yeah, Wanda.
Just to emphasize a point by Mr. Crittenden, I think the exercise that he went through in terms of looking at how the presence of the cell tower on the site affects the rest of the parcel and being able to develop the rest of the parcel. We're not, to emphasize his point, we're not trying to say that, it gets us, in fact, closer. It's just an exercise in saying, well, this is how this affects the site. And so the FAR is what it is. And so there's about a 36% deviation from the standard that's being requested. I think the purpose of the major deviation was, in fact, to be able to, on a case-by-case basis, look at parcels and proposed developments that where one of the standards was difficult to comply with, and make it available, make the tool, the major deviation available to allow a project to move forward as proposed. Retail in this market, the Reno Sparks market, typically doesn't work as two-story. In a two-story configuration, except in very limited circumstances. So it is, in a sense, single-story retail. It's a grocery store in particular, so accessible parking is important. It's really, I think, the question of the Planning Commission, if you will, is really does granting the major deviation significantly undermine the intent of the zoning and the standards for the zoning, or is the Planning Commission comfortable approving the deviation and, in this case, employing the tool that's available in our zoning code to allow a project like this to move forward on a site like this?
Thank you. Any more questions for Ian? All right, if not, is the applicant here would like to speak? Please come up and state your name.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to put a site plan up here. Okay, I'm going to move over here.
Double duty.
There we go. Thank you. For the record, Angela Foos with CFA representing the applicant. As Ian said, the project is part of a larger shopping center, so this gives you an idea of kind of where it's at. The old Lowe's building, which is now going to be part of a renowned facility, is really the big anchor here. Our existing operation is down on the south. You would say it's probably close to Savers, if you guys know where Savers is. And so they're establishing a new operation, and they own the parcel when they allowed the cell tower to come out and build on the parcel. At that time, it was nowhere near the 0.5 FAR. This brings the entire parcel closer into conformance with that FAR. We looked at the building and what their needs were for the building. And again, it's going to be a market, a deli. In the back, they have to have a storage area for drop-off and pickup and loading. That puts a constraint on the site plan because there's certain things you just can't do if you're trying to get trucks back there loading and unloading. Because that cell tower is situated where it is, that also limits where you can put parking and to get your full access. So we kind of backed into what's left. So they took the square footage of the building that they needed, and that was nowhere near the 0.5. Then they added on additional tenant space, which right now is just shown as vacant retail space. So they did attempt to bring it into closer conformance with that FAR without necessarily needing that space for their particular use. So, of course, they're taking a risk by putting in retail space that they'll then have to maintain and own and hope that somebody leases or rents. In terms of the parking, when we look at the use plus the future retail space, we'll need about 29 parking spaces. Their site only allows for 16 parking spaces. So you're kind of backing into what makes sense, what can you work with on the site. Do you still want to meet your landscape requirements, your parking requirements? Because we're in a larger shopping center, we do have the ability to do reciprocal access easements and parking easements, and so that's how we're able to kind of share the parking between us and the larger shopping center. That doesn't quite require any kind of variance. That's allowed just because of the shopping center easement language, so there's no issues with that. But just to help demonstrate, again, when you're dealing with FAR, 0.5 is basically half of your parcel. And then you talk about how much landscaping is required. That's another huge chunk. 15% of your site has to be landscaped. So as you back into all these things, you're really limited in what you can do. And then you bring in trucks because you have to have loading and unloading. And you bring in ADA because you have to be able to meet that. So that's where we came into this site plan that we have now. And no, it does not meet the 0.5 FAR, but as Armando mentioned, the intent of a major deviation is to say, well, let's look at this individually, and are we still able to meet the findings? Is it in conformance with the other portions of the code in terms of is the building articulated to meet code? Do you have landscaping to meet code? Did you provide community amenities to meet code? And we're able to do all of those things. So that just helps to give you the support to say, okay, it's a deviation for sure, but they're still meeting the other code requirements and really the intent of what this FAR is supposed to be. Like I said, they don't need all of that space, that building square footage, but they are putting in extra building square footage to just bring them closer to conformance. So I hope that helps to kind of demonstrate where they came from on this. That box that Ian showed relative to the cell tower, I think he showed it about 3,500 square feet. We did not take the full 3,500 square feet because it's not necessarily all building area, it's just the fenced area that's unusable. So when we used the cell tower square footage as part of the building square footage, we looked at about 1,500 square feet. So again, you're trying to kind of balance between what's usable and what really is considered building square footage. So we took that into consideration as well. Like I said, we meet all the other intents of what a major deviation is supposed to do and trying to keep up to code with what the mixed-use commercial district is asking for, then we're able to show that they can do all of those pieces. I'm available if you have any questions.
Just out of curiosity, the size of the grocery store itself, not the retail that they'll be building with it, how does that compare with the existing facility that they have on the south?
You know, that's a good question. I don't know. The owner is here. If we could have him come up.
If you could come down and speak, please. Just come down. And just speak your name, please.
Commissioner, my name is Ron Liron. I'm current owner of the Manila Hong Kong store that's located inside the shopping center. Currently, our square footage right now is about 5,600 square feet in operation, and I believe we're asking for 8,500, is it?
Correct. So the building itself is going to be about 10,520, and that's for this portion. There's another, probably about 2,000 that will go for retail.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing item. If anybody from the public that would like to come and speak, you would have 3 minutes. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the commission for any discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion. I move to approve the major deviation associated with PCN 15064, adopting findings MD1 through MD5 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval 1 and 3 listed in the staff report.
Second.
1 through 3. I was curious as to why I read that way.
I'm sorry.
Forget 2, just 1 and 3.
Yeah, exactly. 2 is obviously not very important. We had a second from Mr. Peterson.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Good luck with your
Good
project.
luck. Congratulations on your expansion. Okay, we'll move on to PCN 15061, consideration of possible action on a major deviation for an area out in Kylie Ranch, and Ian's back, so.
Ian Crittenden for the record, again. So this is a major deviation, another major deviation request for, a lot in Kylie Ranch, First Tee, Phase 3, which it's hard for me to do. First, number 3. I apologize, the last one, I thought I brought in a vicinity map, but evidently I had not. So this is a vicinity map for the lot in question. As you can see, that's Henry Orr Parkway, kind of to the northwest. These curved streets are sometimes hard to give you hard and fast directions on. You can see it's on the corner of Henry Orr, Duke Ridge, and, well, it's Floral once you get past Duke Ridge, Floral Way. That corner is the main reason that this major deviation is being requested. The rear setback on these the lots in this area is 15 feet. The applicant is requesting to reduce that to 12.2 feet. Here, and I have their site plan that they gave, which is good at showing that. Oh, that's not the button I wanted. I want to be able to show that a little better. Okay, so the reduction in rear setback from 15 to 12.2 is an 18.67% reduction in rear setback. Obviously, that falls within the 10 to 50% that Planning Commission is allowed to grant, and actually just out of, well, at that short of a distance, the percentage grows pretty fast, but not far from their what they would be allowed under a minor. The impact on the neighbors or any other homes is negligible because it is on that street side where they're only slightly closer to Henry Orr and to, I think it's Dixie, sorry, I read that wrong, Dixie Ridge. And so the impact on the neighbors is not great. As is required, they did receive a letter from the neighbor to the, I guess that's mostly to the northeast-ish, that she didn't have a problem with the major deviation that's being requested. Staff was able to make the findings required for major deviation and recommends approval on this. If you have any further questions, I'm available.
Any questions for Ian?
I have just a sort of a general question, Ian. We're seeing on the last project and on this project copies of the application, development application. Is there a reason for that? Is that a change in procedure, and why should we be looking at this, or should we?
Armando?
We will be revisiting that, and I think, you're correct, it's not been past practice to provide the application in full. So we will be discussing it as staff. Certainly, if there's a desire on the part of the Planning Commission for more information versus less, please, you can certainly express that to us. But we will, the answer to the question, Commissioner Bowles, is that, it was inadvertent in this particular juncture, but we are, having done it, we're going to consider whether that's more information is something that would be useful to provide the Planning Commission, and we'll let you know how we're going to proceed in the future.
From my perspective, it doesn't add anything that the narrative doesn't.
Any more questions for Ian? Is the applicant here who would like to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. For the record, Nick Pavich. I'm the manager of the applicant, First Tee Development. We concur with the recommendation for approval and the conditions for approval. I'm here to answer any questions. It's just a tough little corner that we have out there. Couldn't foresee it on the tentative map, but when we go to lay out that house, we're just a few feet short.
Could I give a question? Again, that's why I was trying to figure how you got there, went out there, looked at that, looked at the others. Did you change the model on that house to where you're closer, or you got out there and surveyed? How did it actually occur that?
I'm probably not the best one to answer that, but this is one of our standard models that we build out there. It's a two-story home. We have to get so much in the front driveway. We have to have so much on the front setback. So I think they just kind of backed into where that backyard setback would be. We were a few feet short the way Henry Orr kind of curves around town to the southwest there. So again, it's a kind of a tough little corner. That Dixie Ridge is really an emergency access, so it really doesn't affect anybody over there to the west at all.
No, I understand that, but, I'm looking at other lots, and I'm very concerned of doing that. I see quite a few lots left in there. I want to make sure you're not just saying, I've been involved in this industry for quite a few years, and normally you lay out what models are acceptable on a piece there, and that's why it is normally that in surveying you're finding that you're 2.8 feet off on the thing.
Yeah. We've got two foundations that work with all of our floor plans, and neither one at the final analysis when we went to lay it out and get our setback letter worked on that lot.
Right.
So I hope we're not back here asking for more of this.
Because there is a difference in some other lots there when I'm looking at them, their interior in the project, some of the ones that are not finished in the center, and I sure would be much more concerned one's backing up to an existing, house.
Yes.
Then this
Agreed.
one is on a street,
Right.
and has no neighbors to them. And
6
I
foot
want to make
fencing,
sure
right.
it's not just some you're thinking, let's start getting closer than This is,
I agree. I mean, we've got 6 houses under production. We've poured about another 6 foundations, so we're
Right.
good. So the only thing we have left is that circle that's undeveloped. It's got
right,
17
that's
lots on
center
it.
circle.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we're not coming back. But what we have out there and what's been laid out in a tentative map, I mean, this has been going for a while. We had a shutdown for a while during
Sure.
that, the slowdown, and now we're back at it. And I'm hoping we're not coming back asking for any deviations.
And that was the point more,
Yes.
how you got there and that you're not planning on that on other ones.
Okay, any more questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. This is a public hearing item. If anybody from the public that would like to come and speak, you would have 3 minutes. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back for a motion or any more discussion.
Yeah, before we actually vote again, this specific one, I can see reasons, I can make the items on it, so, but it's something I don't feel on some of the other lots and everything, that this is a one specific, I can make the findings in this, so I'd like to make a motion on that, okay? No more discussion?
Nope.
Okay, I move to approve the major deviation associated PCN 15061, adopting findings MDE 1 through MDE 5 in the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the conditions of approval 1 and 2 listed. 1 and 2. No, I agree. Listed in the staff report. Thank you. Thanks for the help.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Deviation passes, and good luck, and have fun building the house. All right, move on to PCN 15067. Consideration of possible action on a site 4.32 acres in size located at 350 Galletti Way.
All right, so, Commissioners, Ian Crittenden for the record. This actually was noticed in error and should not have, and was agended in error. We were getting the ball rolling and then found out they hadn't had the neighborhood meeting. And so, while it's been agendized, and my understanding is it's, no need to open the hearing, but people are able to speak, is that accurate?
So historically, what
Yeah.
we've done is open up the hearing. I don't think you technically need to do that, but it's a polite thing to do, I suppose, if people are around to talk about it. So.
Okay.
But to give you an understanding, they have since noticed for and will have their neighborhood meeting on the 16th of February, which gives us time after that for us to get the results of that neighborhood meeting and to you guys so that you can hear this again in March. So that's the plan at this point. And that being said, if you have any questions, I'm available.
So there's no action on this at all?
No action at all.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment, and we'll move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Move to general business. That was a presentation of possible direction of the comprehensive plan, which may include the update of Phase 1 public outreach survey results.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Karen Melby, Senior Planner with the City of Sparks, and with me is Karen Craig, who's is our consultant that we hired. She's with Creative Cities and sub-consultant to RAD Strategies. So what we wanted to do tonight is review the plan schedule for the comprehensive plan update project. We also want to provide an overview of the Phase 1 results that we've gotten from the surveys that have been coming back to us. And also we want to solicit your input on the Phase 2 topics and also what we're calling the deep dive questions. So that's what we'd like to go through tonight. Do you want to cover this part?
So we know that we've presented to you about what the plan is. Our role is a public outreach plan. We're doing this different than normal, where instead of asking the community to come into City Hall or into public spaces to be heard, we're going out and asking questions and involving people, ask to find out what they want to see for the City of Sparks in 2030. We laid out for you previously what the vision was in 3 phases. So we did a visioning phase that started in December and is just wrapping up. We have about 600 surveys that are in with the vision phase. Tonight we're working through the deep dive phase, which is Phase 2. That'll begin just after the City Council meeting next week, and your input will rework those questions and get them into the pipeline. That phase will end at the end of spring. Back to the planners to take that input, analyze it, and begin to craft the draft plan. And back out again, make sure that what we heard and what we're writing is on track, and then to the City Council, to you for approval, and the City Council for approval back in September.
So to give you some specific dates, we're doing the workshop tonight, and then City Council, we're doing a workshop with them on Monday. We anticipate that we'll be back in April to give you a review of the survey results from the deep dive, and then probably in May we'll do a workshop on the policy framework, or what we end up having as the themes for the plan, and then also reviewing the land use plan and the land use categories. That would be back in May. And then we anticipate that in July that we'd be bringing forth the draft comp plan before you. And then August is probably when we will bring the final draft comp plan to you, and then we anticipate to go to regional planning in September and City Council in October. Those are our target dates.
It's going to be busy. So Phase 1, we're just completing. We've had a number of conversations and people taking surveys. Essentially, the website's active. As I mentioned, there's about 600 people, and I'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. We've also had fabulous coverage for the City of Sparks. That's very supportive, interactive, balloons, kids, heartfelt kind of input on all the TV stations, Sparks Tribune, Reno Gazette-Journal, KUNR radio feature. Local radio's been going nuts. We've been there several times in the past week. And so we're very much pleased that we're being noticed in the wider community for the effort that Sparks is putting forward. Outreach to date, as I mentioned, TV. We were at the Hometown Christmas Parade, which was extraordinary, because what we really got to do is talk to a lot of people under the age of 30 and ask them what they cared about. We've been having champions meetings with community leaders. We've been with the advisory committee, 39 North, business community, got fabulous contacts from the Washoe Food Policy Council. So people are finding us, Grow Nevada Radio, Sparks Rotary Club, Toastmasters, Kiwanis, and advertorials that are running. Basically, if someone calls us today or is, can you be there Tuesday morning at 7? We'll be there. So that's happening quite a bit. But what you care about is what we're hearing. So basically, let me give you some breakdown. When we ask people what they love, the number one answer, small town, community, hometown, small city. The thing to note here is how much pride this community has in itself. There's no reimagining here. We know exactly who we are and what we want to be. The number two answer, family, friendly, people, kids, and people who care. Number three is events. Number four is live work. Number 5 is parks. Number 6 is safety. And number 7 is Victorian Square.
What?
Victorian Square. The second question is, what are your biggest concerns for the city of Sparks? There was a tie. It was an overwhelmingly screaming answer that said my concerns are growth and traffic. Number two, if those two were tied for first, number two was crime, and number three was schools. And sometimes schools and crime came together in the same sentence. What I think you would be interested in hearing, especially from the Planning Commission, is some of the quotes, because people are answering in sentences here. While the potential is great for the city and local economy, planning for growth is very important. So I think that wraps up that people aren't saying close the door, we're here, we don't want anybody else here. What they're saying is we want to grow, we're willing to grow, let's just not lose who we are. And what we love about this place is that it feels like a small town and a community and family friendly. So really the challenge is to the planners and the Planning Commission, don't screw it up. We're going to grow, don't screw it up. Okay. People's wishes for what Sparks would become by the year 2030. Overwhelmingly, community, family, place to live, friendly people. Number two, downtown. Number two, events. Number three, downtown. Number four, schools. Number five, parks. Number six, business. 7, roads. 8, growth. 9, clean. 10, restaurants. What's fascinating here is look how high downtown is on this list. So part of what you're going to hear in a few minutes about the deep dive questions are, where is our downtown? Is it Victorian Square? Is it Legends? Is it the Marina? Is it Victorian Square or the Marina Legends? But is it possibly the Galleria? So we have lots to understand about what people are saying. We also want to understand what they mean by events. As best we can tell, it has a great range from the big national events that give Sparks notoriety to events that are taking place block by block, bringing community together. Some of the things to read here is, we want a great downtown, not urban sprawl. Another one is greater connectivity of all types between the north and south parts of the city. Another answer, opportunities to bring people together is my wish. And another answer is a fair balance between housing and business. We'd like to see more local business. So, phase 2 deeper dive.
So, the approach that we're working on for the deeper dive is
mid-February, we anticipate that we'll be, sounds like my mic just went out. Mid-February, we're going to be going out, bringing out the deep dive questions. And what we're looking at is, the packet that you have is pretty long. I keep forgetting to count how many questions there are, but I think there's close to 30 questions. What we're looking at is probably, when you go to the website, we'll have a short survey and a long survey. So you have the option. If you want to do a survey in 5 minutes, you can do that one, or you can do the longer, which will be 10 or 15. We haven't narrowed that down yet. So that's what we're going to be releasing in mid-February, and then also that'll be survey that will be active until April. We will be analyzing the more detailed surveys and then conducting public outreach, and again, more boots on the ground. We'll be going out to the Rotaries and the Kiwanis and Toastmasters and all those groups again, and asking for their opinions and ideas and that kind of.
And that's also the phase where we get involved right now. We've really been leaning to get out into the community, especially in wards 1 and 2, which I know we talked about when we met with you last time. How do we hear voices of people who don't normally participate? I can give you a sense for some of those demographics if you're interested on the responses we're getting. But in phase 2 here, we also want to make a particularly big effort to now start meeting with stakeholders in our partner jurisdictions, the school district, flood control, RTC, and then business developers and other people who have a very vested interest and stake and opinions that need to be heard and registered and involved in this plan. Really, they can get involved and talk us through almost on a one-on-one basis of what their needs are and how we're going to interface.
Is it going? Oh, we already talked about the short and long.
Yeah, I think we covered this.
Yeah, we did. So the goal of the survey is to inform the development of policy for a citywide comprehensive plan. The reason we stress this is some of the feedback that we've been getting on the survey is people are saying the questions should be more like a customer service. How is the city doing? And that's not the direction that we want in this survey. We do that annually anyway. We do that separate customer service survey. That's not the function of this survey. This survey is to establish policies for the city on how we want to grow, where we want to grow, what kind of infrastructure things that and services that the community find important. Those are the things that we want to dive into, and not, are we doing a good job? That kind of a question. So we're providing you tonight the long version of the draft.
Good.
Yeah.
Hope that wasn't the short one.
No. And we have been testing it. This one is taking roughly 15 minutes to fill out right now. So we've got to pare it back some. What we want to do is we've been also meeting one-on-one with the senior staff. We did a presentation at the senior staff meeting, which is the department heads. And we've been meeting with them. Armando and I have been going out and meeting with the senior staff one-on-one, talk about specific issues for their department. And then, as tonight, we're going to the Planning Commission, and then Monday we'll be at City Council to get their feedback. After we get all that input, and the questionnaire may get longer before it gets shorter, but then we're going to work on a short version, and then which would be the final version that would be released on the website and out to the public. So we're calling them survey topics, and the main reason, part of this is coming from the comments that are coming from the public, but also things that we feel subjects or topics that are related to the city that we need to cover. And we were actually mostly doing these topics because they're topics that we need to make sure that we ask questions about. And we want to make sure that we're hitting with questions under each one of these topics. What we anticipate is based on the input that we get from everybody, then we're going to come up with the themes that would be for the comp plan. These aren't the themes. They may actually morph into that, but at this point we're just calling them topics. That way we just, because these topics will not actually be in the survey. We're not going to say, okay, now are the questions for managing growth. We're just using these right now as a working document so that we know that we're hitting every subject. So the first 5 are managing growth, traffic and mobility, which would also include pedestrians and bicycle mobility, public safety, that's police, fire, and public works, community and neighborhood character. We've been getting a lot of comments on that, so we want to dive more into that. Housing and unaffordable housing. Then the next 5 are economic vitality, fiscal health, which is mostly, it would be the fiscal health of the city, resiliency and sustainability, facilities and amenities, and then the last one is the quality of life. So what we wanted to do is discuss these questions, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read them, but we have under each topic a little introduction of what that topic's subject matter is. And we're trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that. We might post that as a separate document on the website. We're still working out these things. But this would not actually be, I don't anticipate, like this paragraph here would not be in the survey. It would just be the questions. So under this managing growth, we've got 3 questions. They're targeted at how should Sparks grow? If we grow outside of our city boundaries, should the lands be annexed? What type of land or development should they be? And how do you want the city to manage the future growth? Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns about any, or ideas of other questions regarding managing growth?
Could you go back for just 1 second? I'm interested in this, but when you did the initial survey to kind of on phase 1 to get to this point, were there any answers where you got dramatically different responses based on the demographics of who was answering? And tell us about that for a couple of minutes, if you would.
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of the demographics. I have overview, and then we're going to throw down basically Ward 1 and 2 and be able to answer it that way. So essentially, our goal was to mirror what the population is of the city of Sparks with the responses that we're getting. So for example, Sparks is 78.38% white, and we have 73.47 response in our surveys. Latino Hispanic is 19.7. We have responses of 14.32. What I think is interesting to note, we also have running right on with African American 2.4. We have 2.12. Asian American is 4.99. We have 2.89. But what's very interesting is how many people are answering that they're mixed background, apparent in one of each of these categories. And when you add the other mixed with Latino Hispanic, we're running at like 25%. So it's very interesting. And the census is going to have to figure out what they're going to do with other, because it's not working right now. In terms of age, under 19, we've talked to about 7% of our survey. Ages 20 to 34 is 20% of the community. We've talked to about 22.74%. 35 to 54 is 28% of our community. We've talked to 38% of that population, et cetera. 55 to 74 is 20% of the population. We've talked to about 30%. And 75 plus is 5%. We've talked to about 2.84%. But we know that that's much more direct outreach than what we found online. Then we've broken it down by ward, which I think is what you're interested in asking.
I don't know what I'm interested in. I was just curious whether you got
okay.
a lot of if you got different responses from different demographic groups or not.
Yes.
We do. So interestingly enough, there's in wards 1 and 2, particularly, because we drill down pretty much in the older historic neighborhoods, very interested in revitalization, very interested in crime, very interested in having more neighborhood presence rather than drive-by presence. And that covered topics from gang violence or guns to just my neighbor's yard looks crummy. So very much the sense of pride in that neighborhood is it's an older neighborhood, but we love where we are, and we just need some loving care and attention. Get out to the north, and it's beautiful, safe. This is our downtown. Traffic's bothering us a lot. You don't hear traffic so much from these closer in spaces consistently from wards 4 and 5, I believe.
So the same token, you get much discussion about pros and cons about the small town theme and the growth, because that's a great balancing act. I can see that you're going to have to cut.
So what we're hearing is, if you can do it, let's do it. If we can pull it off, let's do it. Small town, and here's an interesting answer, because I was pulling one. This is got to find it here on my page, and got to get my glasses to focus. It's marked here on the back, that's why. So this is a person who is age range of 20 to 34, who self-identifies as Hispanic Latino. And what they say is, I love Sparks because it offers the amenities and is safe, comfortable, and beautiful. My biggest concern, rampant growth may lead to unintended consequences that reduce the quality of life. But listen to what they point out, loss of natural areas surrounding the city. Isn't that fascinating? And what their wish is for 2030, provide better live-work opportunities and amenities while maintaining beautiful areas with recreational and scenic value to create the most stability for the city.
Well, we're expecting, and I understand, this is a great plan, and we're expecting some more growth coming in the future. Yeah. And that's going to be an awful big challenge to keep a small town sort of environment and growth too. It's going to be a challenge, and it's almost impossible.
And you own that. It's amazing. And from what reading, what must be about 60 pages of individual comments from people, is that they're up for it. We're not reading, don't let them in, or don't bring it here. They're just saying, help us preserve what makes this so special. And a word that's used a lot, besides we're not Reno, it's not chaotic here. So there's a certain gentleness about being a resident or an employee in the city of Sparks that also goes along with that small town feel. People want to know their neighbors.
Lots of luck.
Lots of luck.
That's going to be a wonderful thing.
So I don't know how any questions or.
Well, certainly, in terms of the topics, maybe start at that level if you feel there are topics that are not being addressed that need to be addressed. Again, we're trying to maintain this. We're trying to focus on topics and questions that can inform policy, as opposed to, telling us how we, as Karen Melby noted, we're not looking for necessarily feedback on, what people think of our services currently, but more on what we need to be thinking about in terms of a comprehensive plan. So.
Any discussion on the survey topics?
Where is recreation? I'm curious.
We put that under, we're putting that under quality of life.
Okay.
And we're not actually delving much into the recreation because the Parks Commission just recently in 2013 adopted the rec plan, and so we don't want to have to be soliciting for more comments, and maybe we get different answers, and that just complicates things. So we're decided that, and we've talked to Tracy Dominguez, the Parks Director, and she agrees with us that let's not delve into the parks. We'll find out what people consider quality of life. Do they consider the parks as part of their quality of life? But let's not delve into how many parks, what type of parks, that kind of issue at this point.
Would it be your preference that we take a crack at filling this out and give you feedback?
That's an option, yeah. We could do that. That would be one way for you to really read it and think about it.
Could we just go ahead and fill them out as, like you say, you pick 2 options or 3 options?
Yeah.
And then bring it to community services, or?
Yeah, whatever. Sure.
Because I like to take some time and read it, and, rather than try to do it now in half hour or so, I'd rather take my time.
There's several topics on here that's not going to apply to everybody. I suppose you noticed that. Like, how far are you going to commute to work? Well, I'm not going to commute to work again.
Right. Yeah. Well, and same with Doug, right? And Tom, who is retired also. So, yeah.
Well, I tell you, it was really crazy. We talked about traffic and that. I was going, even somewhere, I left the house since 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I don't know how long. But I was going down Sparks Boulevard. I couldn't believe it. And I live right off Sparks Boulevard. And I was ready hitting McCarran. The traffic in 3 years, it almost tripled. And people go through that every morning. And Pyramid Highway, it's really amazing how many people have moved here. And the traffic, it's unbelievable.
On traffic and mobility, on the third question, it says driving my own vehicle, ride sharing, bus, bike, walk. Could you maybe put like light rail, some other options in there that you see through other communities besides?
Well, I mean, we could, but light rail is not realistic in this community.
Certainly not by 2030.
Yeah, not by 2030.
Well, come on, Karen, you're doing this. You need to make it happen.
So, I mean, we're trying to, we like your, thanks for the suggestion, but
Okay. No, thanks.
we're trying to make it
but keep it down.
Well, we're trying to make it realistic for 2030.
Right.
I mean, it's only 14 years away. It sounds like it's a long way, but 14 years is not that far away, really.
Could I make another suggestion? Because a lot of people have moved here in the last couple of years, and I think you could probably get on some lists for, like a new mover, to say, hey, why did you move here? Send them a survey, maybe put a
That's excellent.
Yeah.
$5 off your sewer bill if they fill it out.
It's not a thing.
There are no discounts on sewer bills.
That's an enterprise fund.
That'd be a good market to hit, say, hey, why did you move here?
Be interesting.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see.
And I asked, I had a guy just moving across the street, and I asked him, why'd you move here? And he goes, you hear? I said, what? And he goes, you hear that? I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, that's why I moved here. And he was younger than me, which is
That young?
not that hard. But
Is this at the,
Huh?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer. Is this at the front desk anywhere when we come in?
No, this is not public yet.
Okay.
Right.
So we're just testing it right now and getting feedback before we go public.
Yeah, I gotta read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a focus group, essentially, at this point, yeah.
So we each take this as it is, take a crack at filling it out, and as part of filling it out, give these folks some feedback as to whether it made sense and.
And if you find typos or something, note them, let us know, because I've been finding typos as I go through it,
Yeah.
too, so.
Sure.
Return it
Huh?
to whom, by when?
Me? When? Do we want Wednesday next week, or? How about that? So that would be the 10th, I believe?
Yeah.
So if you could get them to me by the 10th?
With feedback.
With the feedback, yeah.
And earlier is appreciated. if
Yeah.
possible.
Because we've got to basically wrap up all of our input next week, so.
And your input will affect how we also have the dialogue with the city council on Monday.
Yes.
So if you get it back to us ahead of that, it allows us to be sensitive to that as we're helping them work through the same issues.
Mhm. But that doesn't give you much time.
It's 15 minutes.
8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Tick tock, tick tock. Go-
One suggestion I would have for the planning commission is that, as you're aware, the master plan, the comprehensive plan is really, in a sense, the planning commission's document. And so, ultimately, I would suggest to you that you think about, what additional questions or what different questions or, what might we ask that's not on here that would help you, develop the policy framework for the future of the city Sparks, right? I think you may have noticed, or you may notice as you go through this more carefully, that we are trying, in some instances at least, to pose choices, right? To ask people to think about, priorities. For example, with the issue of managing traffic, to the extent that the solution to managing traffic is to widen arterials, add lanes to roads, et cetera, that has a direct bearing on the character of the community, right? Roadways become effectively barriers to some extent, certainly for people who are on foot or on a bicycle. And so, that has, try getting across McCarran, right, when there's a lot of traffic on the road. And so that will influence, the character of the community. Maybe that is in fact the solution, and that's the or the, really that's the priority. But as you go through this, think about those sorts of choices, right? Think about what sorts of considerations. We've tried to address, for example, in the resiliency and sustainability section, thinking about how, an issue like, climate change might need to be addressed in terms of the comprehensive plan. I mean, there's no, I think, specific intent to try to mitigate climate change, because that's by and large, something that's happening at a global scale, if you will. But, the thought was that, well, how do we look ahead? How should the city of Sparks prepare to try to be able to adapt to change? Whether it's due to climate, technology, economic changes can really be disruptive to a community potentially. That's the level of thinking we're asking you to employ, and give us suggestions in terms of what you might want to know from the public through this survey to help you do your job better.
And having said that, think about that we're also out, Lynn Hernandez is out at ball fields, soccer fields on Saturday morning and translating surveys with people. So we're talking to a wide range of, and we're trying to get back a wide range of input that's both respectful and informative.
And these surveys, the survey will be translated into Spanish so that people can fill it out. The other thing that we're going to be doing also is we're going to be doing other things like going to the schools and talking to the children in the schools and get what they like about the community, some input from them. What else we're going to do? The
industrial areas.
In the industrial area.
Food trucks in the business in the industrial area, and kind of understand how that's working and how people are working in it, and get very direct input from that group of population.
Okay.
So that's all going to be incorporated into our final analysis of the input.
What was your earliest age group was 19 to 30, I believe?
It was actually under 19.
Under 19?
Under 19. And the next age group is 20 to 34.
Okay.
And that population is about 20% of the total population of Sparks.
The 20 to 34? And what about the under 19?
Under 19 is 27%.
Yeah, I would.
But we
Yep.
have,
What are some, just, I guess, what are some trends that we're seeing kind of nationwide as far as what people are wanting? My guess is live close to where you were, be able to not have a car anymore.
That seems to go in and out. What I've been reading is a lot of the millenniums generation, they don't even want to, they're not gung-ho on getting a driver's license.
Right.
So that's going to change dynamics of where people live and work.
Is that 19, the millenniums?
No, that's,
20 to 30?
yeah, that's 20 in mid-30s, I believe. Yeah, right.
What are the 19s? What do we call them?
I don't know if they have a name yet. I haven't. Yeah. Huh? Generation Z.
That's right. Thank you.
Because it's what the millenniums and the Gen X.
Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z.
And
Sounds like a vitamin.
Yeah. Or some kind of drug. If you take it, it leads to death. No, I can't remember what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
you were asking on demographics.
Yeah.
yeah, so 20 to 34. Once again, the next pop is.
The next pop is 35 to 54. From 50.
What do we? Okay. What do we call that generation?
Mine.
That's Gen X, and then almost into baby boomer.
Yeah, boomers. Yeah, boomer.
After that's 55 to 74.
I'm not going to ask you what that one is.
Well, it's part. I don't know if they have a name for older than boomers. Yeah.
What's that?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions or comments, or? Tom, you got some homework. All right.
The other thing on trends that we're finding from the home builders that we've been talking to is people want smaller lots. And when I say smaller, they're in the range of 4,000 square foot. That's what the home builders are telling us. That's the market right now. So.
And therefore smaller homes as well.
Yeah, not necessarily.
What's the floor area ratio?
Yeah, right.
can we deviate that?
No.
And it's interesting to sort kind of that input because we've been looking through the data that Reno's getting back, where the Reno survey is saying people want to live kind of suburban large lots. But that's not, that may not be what we're seeing, and it may not be what our developers are seeing as people asking for products. So it may be mind's eye perception as compared to what the reality is. So, Chairman, when you were saying talk to the newcomers, part of our stakeholders is also going to the front line, people who are selling homes. What are you hearing? What are they asking for, and why? Critically important, because everybody can't live in a suburb on a large lot if we want to still be a small town.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so now I'll move to the favorite part of the year. It is now my favorite part of the year, the election of the Sparks Planning Commission officers for 2016. I guess I'll start it. Kind of in the past, how we've kind of moved up through is the George, who's been vice chair, moves up to chair. So I would like to nominate George as the chairman.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? Anybody else would like to hop in? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All fair for George to take over the, what I'm doing. I'll say. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All opposed? Seeing none, congratulations, George.
Thank you, Dan.
The gavel was almost yours. So now we just need a vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Frank Peterson for vice chair.
Okay, I'll second that. So, okay, we have first and a second for Frank Peterson for vice chair. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, congratulations,
We're
vice
done.
chair.
I didn't even have to make a campaign, so.
I know. Okay, so item 12 is done. Now we'll review the Sparks Planning Commission rules and procedures for possible action. Any changes that you guys saw that, or everybody saw? Yes, Armando?
One thing that you may want to clean up at this point in time is in Article 2, Section 5, Page 2, terms of office. I don't believe we have any members that were serving on the commission in March of 2000 anymore, do we? So it may be that we can strike
That whole sentence.
strike, that part of it and clean that up.
Makes sense.
What page was that on, Armando?
Page
2,
Page
Section
2.
5.
Section 5.
Okay. Do we need a motion to strike that, or just say?
Well, I mean, I think we can do it any way you want. We can have a motion to do this particular issue, or we can get to the end and just do all the issues that you found. But yes, you do need a motion where everybody kind of agrees to amend the rules. Or doesn't agree, as the case may be.
Okay. Any other problems that people see? Doug, I thought you'd surely say you wanted no term limits.
I'm beyond that capacity.
Okay. Okay, so for the rules and procedures, I will entertain a motion that will approve them with the amendment of Section 5, the last sentence.
Middle sentence.
Section 5, members first appointed to the commission after March 13th, 2000 are subject to the term limitations set forth, or in the middle sentence, I guess.
Yes.
I think in fact you could probably strike both of those.
Okay.
So,
Just strike the whole Section 5.
Well, no.
No, the terms of office need to continue.
Oh, that's right, okay.
I move to approve the rules and procedures as they are written here, with the exception of Article 2, membership, Section 5, second and third sentence. to be
Second.
removed.
Okay, we have first and second to, on approval of the rules of procedure, striking section 5, the second and third sentence, leaving the first sentence, which is term of office. The term of each appointed member shall be 4 years until a successor takes office. Have any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Rules and procedures. Okay, now we'll open public comment. If anybody from the public would like to speak, you'd have 3 minutes to speak on any agenda item.
This public is going to take a picture.
Okay, you have to do it in 3 minutes.
So everyone, if you just lean forward, we actually are really. So Jen, we're just okay?
All right.
You guys can just lean a little bit here.
Diane, that's you. Move in.
I did.
Lean in.
You don't want to get too. You don't want to get too
Poor
close.
Diane.
There we go. Thank you.
You'll be on the website in the morning.
Perfect.
I did not sign a release for that. Okay, move to item 15, Commissioners. I'd like to say thank you guys for helping me through my year as chairman. And I appreciate all the support you gave me.
Job well done, Jamie. Job well done.
All right.
Yes.
So I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All right, so moved. There you go, buddy.